I know that you're probably at home watching this right now, thinking about the future of Zimbabwe, where our nation is going and who we're about to become. But at the end of the day, I have no fears concerning the future of our nation because I know exactly who the future leaders are, and I am joined with them right now today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 8th edition of the SASI debate, proudly brought to you by Say What, supported by SEAL, SAYWHAT Events and Lifestyle Services, courtesy of the Nyarazo Group. I am your debate master, Debate Master Jumbe. Let's just say you can call me that for now. However, soon you'll find out that this is going to be the most interesting thing you've ever seen. I have the pleasure of being joined not once, but twice by these tenacious champions. It was a clash of titans. It was a house of cards. Some of their house of cards fell to crumble, and the others have risen. These are the champions of the second round of the SASI Debate Challenge. I hope that you're ready to see why they actually stayed in the game and how they're fighting both tooth and nail like dogs ready to win. They're fighting to the death. Hopefully you're ready for all the action right here. I'd like these brilliant teams to actually take some time to introduce themselves and tell us more about who they are, where they're from, and then we'll begin our debate. Starting with podium number 1. Who are you, podium number 1?
Hello everyone, my name is Munasha Lanishan Chandra. I'm from RCU, Reformed Church University.
Hello guys, my name is Gabriel Mtupanyama. I am from RCU as well.
Wow, so what are your expectations? Are you feeling ready? You came out from the last round. It wasn't easy, it was difficult, but now you've made it to the second step. Was it baby steps? Was it difficult? Were you stumbling? Or are you going to have more stability this time?
Yeah, there were baby steps, day and another day, but we are hoping to advance.
Definitely, lovely. But I feel like there might be some competition. It's not easy at all.
Yeah.
Podium 2, do you think you can give them the necessary competition?
Yes. Hopefully, we are expecting to give you the competition. Yeah.
Lovely. And who am I joined with at podium number 2?
Nyasha Lincoln Tichawangana from Zimbabwe ZEGU University, and Nestle Makado, my colleague, also from the same university.
Do you think that you'll proceed from this round?
I believe so. I believe we have learned from the mistakes of the first round and we are about to be champions.
We love that. We love that attitude, that tenacity that keeps us going. Because there's so many times where it comes to debate, there are lots of gaps, but the understanding of filling those gaps is what helps us move forward. Speaking of forward in pioneers, let's go to podium number 3. Are you prepared for this debate?
Yes, we're prepared.
That's amazing. You've done a lot of work outside. You've had sleepless nights. This is where it comes. It's elimination time. There's no going back after this. Are you ready?
Yes, we're ready.
You kicked someone out. Hopefully you don't get kicked out as well.
Yes.
Now, podium number 4. How are you feeling about today's debate?
I think we're feeling very optimistic about it. We're hoping we'll get the best result. Yeah.
We absolutely love that. Over here, we're just holding on to hope. As you can see, we have so many radiant, shining faces right now. Let's hope that we have the same positivity and optimism at the end. And I think you know what time it is. Now, as your debate master, I will not be doing a proper job if I do not elucidate you and expand on the necessary rules of this debate. This will be a British parliamentary-style debate consisting of 4 teams. 2 teams will be on the side of opposition, and the other 2 teams will be on the side of proposition. When it comes to these debates, understand that each speaker has only been allotted 4 minutes of speaking time that they should use as wisely as possible, and also make room for points of information. Within that time, they should be as succinct as possible, yet deliver the necessary argumentation. They are here to deliver the necessary truths that they believe will change the world. Well, I think that's enough yapping, and it's time for us to get into the motion of this debate. This debate's motion reads as follows. This House believes that the expansion of digital learning platforms in Zimbabwe risks reinforcing educational inequality unless accompanied by deliberate investments in digital access. I will repeat. This House believes that the expansion of digital learning platforms in Zimbabwe risks reinforcing educational inequality unless accompanied by deliberate investments in digital access. Well, I'm not going to repeat any further. Well, I'm the man of this house, and you better get ready. I think you know what time it is. It's time for us to seal the deal. when it comes to debate, there's one thing people need to begin to understand. When you mess with the proverbial bull, you also get the horns of extension and argumentation. That being said, we're already talking so much about digital transformation. I think it's time we talk about another type of transformation. These once regular students are now transforming into honorable delegates and speakers. With enough being said, I will now call upon the Prime Minister to come and provide their side and argumentation. Honorable Prime Minister, may you please come forward.
Honorable panel, this House truly believes that the expansion of digital learning platforms in Zimbabwe risk reinforcing educational inequalities unless accompanied by deliberate investments in digital access. Why are we arguing so and supporting so? This is because increasing the use of digital learning platforms like online classes, e-learning apps, and virtual resources may worsen the gap between students who already have access to internet devices, digital skills, and those who do not have unless the government intentionally make sure everyone can access and use the platforms equally. So to fully understand this motion, I'm going to first define the keywords. Expansion of digital learning. This means increasing in use and availability of online or tech-based education tools. E-learning platforms, this refers to Zoom classes, WhatsApp tutoring, e-learning platforms, yes. So educational inequalities, this refers to the differences in learning opportunities or outcomes based on socio-economic status, gender, location, or disability. So we as the government side, we say yes, expanding the digital learning without addressing access issues will worsen existing inequalities in Zimbabwe education system. So why are we supporting so? We are saying that urban students benefit more because there is better connectivity. In urban areas, the internet facility is easy to connect other than in rural areas where you face internet challenges. So when urban students benefit more, this creates a wider gap between the rural and the urban. We are saying that this will widen the digital divide between the rural and the urban. So it benefits the most privileged and urban, while the rural students will be under-marginalized without quote, it benefits the most privileged, while the rural are set aside. Without devices, electricity, or connectivity, they are left behind. E.g., the urban schools in Harare, everyone will already using online tools. They already have the skills how to use the online tools, other than those in Binga, where there is no internet. There is internet challenge. We further believes to this, agrees to this motion because it creates a two-tier educational system. What are we referring to two-tier educational system? We mean there is elite schools which are advanced with technology, while poor schools fell further apart. This depends a long-term inequality in the Zimbabwe educational and tertiary education. And we also go furthering agreeing to the motion because there is exclusion of vulnerable groups like girls, the persons with disabilities, mostly in the rural areas. They are left behind. No one will be considering them. So we are saying that expansion of digital learning platforms in Zimbabwe risk reinforcing educational inequalities unless accompanied by deliberate investments in digital access. Go on furthering that there is still digital illiteracy. Teachers and students may not know how to use these platforms, especially in the rural areas. They don't have enough information, enough skills that will equip them. With this, we are proud to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that contribution, Honourable Prime Minister. I believe that you have now started the debate with a tone of quite an intriguing topic. However, when it comes to leadership, there's always going to be a challenge. Hence, I'll now ask for the leader of the opposition delegation to come forward and provide us with their contribution.
As the opposition, we would like to refute the claim that there is no access for the remote people in Zimbabwe. Recently, we have seen the Minister of Information and Technology, Minister Mavetere, with the help of the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, distributing Starlink kits and laptops, following up the program that was started by the former President Robert Gabriel Mugabe of launching computer hubs in different areas. That means we are having people from remote areas accessing internet, accessing computers. On the issue of accessibility, these days, smartphones have become cheap. If you are to go deep down, Binga, like they mentioned, we are going to find someone using a smartphone, which means that they can now access these online platforms. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say accessibility comes from this digital technology, digital learning. Through that, someone can now learn at the comfort of their homes. We have children who travel for 5 kilometers to school. Now they can just open their phone and be able to access information that is on internet as same as the one who is in the urban setup. There is also the issue of flexibility. What am I saying? Flexibility comes when one can access information at the comfort of their homes. There is more information on a small gadget. It's no longer opening books and books, going 5 kilometers to school so that you can access this information. So, by flexibility, we are having the bridge to the digital divide. We are no longer having the urban children knowing it all and the rural children deemed as those that are unfortunate. We can also see that this is cost effective. In what sense? There is no need to have so many teachers around Zimbabwe. We can now have lessons online. Children from remote areas, especially those women and girls in highly patriarchal areas, can now easily access this information through going to the innovation hubs, computer hubs, and also by the distribution of Starlink kits in their schools. So, with this, I raised my opposition.
Thank you very much, opposition. You've provided us with quite the entailing enthrall when it comes to this debate. However, one thing we want to really understand concerning the government is the ideology of the Deputy Prime Minister as well. When it comes to accessibility, we need to think about issues of affordability and location. Let's hope that in this section of the debate, the Deputy Prime Minister can expand more. Come forward, please, Honourable Prime Minister.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is appalling that the opposition is coming here and claiming that we have innovation hubs in rural areas. Name one, sir. Name just one specific innovation hub that is found in a rural area that children and marginalized groups are apparently accessing according to this fiat world that we're living in, that you are living in. Ladies and gentlemen, we as the government side obviously support the motion that reads that the expansion of digital learning indeed does indeed does reinforce educational inequality. Indeed does enforce educational inequality. Why would I say this? Why would I suggest this? The opposition leader would actually came out here and said that the phones are becoming cheap now. But ladies and gentlemen, we know how technology moves. We know that cheap often means outdated. We also know that we also know and consider that because it is cheap, because it is outdated, we are even furthering the gap between a student who is accessing internet and is accessing the latest update or on the latest smartphone versus someone who's still using a phone from 2012 which still has physical keypads and no actual internet access. Ladies and gentlemen, we are actually supporting this motion because we are noticing an instance where we are trying to see a world where we either level the platform for accessibility for both sides, both urban and rural, either that
Point.
or I'll take you when I'm done. Or we end up risking the educational inequality that we are trying to explain. My partner came out here and quite literally explained everything that we needed to know when it comes to this particular motion. She mentioned that there's two-tier education that's going to develop because if we do not level the playing field, if we do not level the accessibility of tech, if we do not level the accessibility of this technology, we'll end up noticing that there are two tiers to the education system. One who's using the latest technology, and the other who is not exactly updated and into the system. Now, we are also noticing that the Prime Minister then also decided to mention about the fact that children still travel 5 kilometers, but with the use of cheap technology, they won't. I'm trying to figure out how he got past the network issues, how he got past the lack of consideration that not everyone, regardless of economic instances, can still afford to get a mobile device that can actually get internet access. Besides, internet access is a subscription, and it's also based on financial position of the people that are accessing it. So if we don't level the playing field, we're just increasing the gap. Now, it benefits urban areas more, as we've already explained, that obviously urban areas have more access and have better access to the internet. We also notice that there is a widening of the digital divide, just like we have explained. And also, we didn't say that there is there is no access to technology in rural areas. We're saying there is little, and if we continue to not level the playing field, it will eventually increase. So, ladies and gentlemen, we should weigh the advantages and disadvantages here. If we try to implement a fast-scale, latest update on technology, we will be leaving almost half of the entire population living in rural areas in the dust. And we apparently claim it as national development, where in theory and in actual practice, it is simply just us neglecting everyone who lives in those areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. At the end of the day, it shall be an African question. Are we truly moving forward if we are leaving people behind? Let's hope that the deputy from the delegation of the opposition can begin to demystify and remove the fog around our heads around that question. Honourable Delegate, please make your way forward to the stand.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to proceed from where my fellow learned counsel left. In this, we are against the motion. Why we say so? I'm going to first refute some of the points that were raised by my fellow opposite side. There is an aspect of the rural areas where they are saying that they cannot access such digital expansions. My question is, are we moving forward as a nation, or we are always stepping back? Are we going to retrace our steps to the Stone Age period, or we are going to move forward with the revolutionization of technology? It's either you change with the change, or change will change you. So, moving forward, with the examples that were asked for by my fellow student, is there are places that have put about the aspect of innovative hubs. Taking, for instance, there is Rwanda that implemented the system and it worked. Now, we as Zimbabweans, we are now trying to apply such actions to improve our countries. For example, in Domboshawa, there are computer innovative hubs, and also Zimbiru primary and Munyawiri secondary. So I'm going to move forward and address on integrating disaster preparedness. This digital expansion can help us have an integrated disaster preparedness education into existing curriculum. That will be more effective way to promote resilience without compromising academic rigor. What am I saying? I'm saying that there are periods where we meet those pandemics that come around. We have COVID-19 that came about in the period where children were still learning, and we needed to move forward. What would we do if such scenarios come back again? We need those digital devices to be put forward and expanded within the nation. Moving forward, we also have the issue where people are learning online and also from radios. There is a period where Power FM, Star FM, ZFM even had a time period where they would teach children from the radio stations. Even those in the rural areas could access such technology. And also we have to take note that it's not always that people at the rural areas are that backlap that they don't have any source of resource to access the technology, but we also have to take note that they are communicating, and what are they using to communicate is those digital devices. So we need to move forward with the change. There are many colorful flowers on the path of life, but the prettiest have the sharpest thorns. So what am I saying? Digital expansion might be a bit hard to implement at some point, but we need to change to a post where we are able to see the implementation of good things within our nation. So as the opposing government, we oppose the motion that the House believes that the expansion of digital learning platforms in Zimbabwe risks reinforcing educational inequalities unless accompanied by deliberate investments in digital accesses, as there are potential changes and cost effectiveness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Delegate. If there's one thing that makes children scream for joy, it's often that special time when they get to take out their little sandwich. Jesus was told, turn these stones into bread. Now kids just constantly scream, break time. And that's exactly what we're about to go on right now. I hope that you're having just as much fun as I am. It's break time right now. We'll catch you right after the break. See you soon. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 8th edition of the SASI Debate Challenge. I am joined by a brilliant cohort of amazingly intelligent individuals. However, at this current venture, we've already discussed how things are moving, and now we're going to discuss the way forward. Within Zimbabwe, there's so many questions we begin to ask. We often used to boast about how we have the highest literacy rate, but that was in the past. And the question is, when it comes to literacy and education, how will we move in the future? The future is not tomorrow. The future starts today, with these discussions at the moment. Well, that's enough chit-chat from me. Time to hear from an honourable member of government. Let's see their proposition and hear how they stand concerning the motion of the day.
Okay, so panel, what we get from side opposition is that expansion of digital learning platforms in Zimbabwe does not risk reinforcing educational inequality because phones are cheap. Panel, the last time I checked, a phone that can actually have students access digital learning platforms cost about $150 going upwards, panel. And panel, we're seeing to it that we have cases of rural urban areas, panels, where a family's net worth cannot even reach $100, panel. And panel, they come here and then they claim that cell phones are cheap. Are cell phones really cheap? Is a cell phone that is worth $150 really cheap to a family that has a net worth of less than $100 in a month? Now, panel, as the opening government, as the closing government, would like to acknowledge all that has been said by our opening government. And panel, we bring to you our case extension, where we're seeing to it that what is the type of investment that we need, panel, and how does the lack of investment cause educational inequalities in Zimbabwe, panel, as our parameters. Now, for the first part, we're going to be talking about time investment, the second, money investment, the third, literacy investment, and the fourth, infrastructure investment. Now, panel, by time investment, what we mean is the time, panel, to actually train students on how to use digital literacy. Panel, we might see to it that students need to be trained to know how to use this, to know how to use Ruzivo while using their cell phone, panel. So panel, we're saying right now, currently with the curriculum of the students, do we have time to be teaching them on how to use a cell phone, panel? We actually see to it that it ends up creating an educational inequality for those who already know how to use the phone versus the ones who do not know how to use a phone. And then we move to money investment, panel. Panel, we see to it that in rural areas, panel, girls are less likely to own a phone by 1.6 times than the girls in urban areas, panel. So we see to it that if the government, if the parents fail to invest money, to actually have money to buy the cell phone, panel, we are going to end up having educational inequality, panel, educational inequality between the rural areas and the urban areas. And to strengthen this point, we're seeing to it that what we actually mean by proper access, panel, in digital access, we mean having the right resources that are enough and being able to appropriately use the resource. Now, panel, moving on to literacy investment, we're saying that, are they updated systems? Panel, if the government or the families fails to update if the school fails to update the system constantly, panel, we say to it that in rural areas, we're going to be having the outcome whereby the pass rate is lower than the pass rate of urban areas, because we see the urban areas actually have the ability to constantly update their systems more than the rural areas panel. And panel for infrastructure investment, we're saying that is there enough electricity, is there appropriate network, is there appropriate internet, so that these digital online learning platforms can actually be there. And with this, we rest our case.
Thank you very much, Member of the Government. We will now take some time to hear from a member of the opposition. Quite the points have been raised, but let's see how they'll be destroyed by the opposition. Opposition member, please make your way forward to the stand.
Panel, we think within the opening half of this debate, they don't sufficiently engage with the motion well enough. We think it's especially key on setup, right? They don't tell us what the expansion of digital platforms means in this particular context. It means the debate from the onset is very messy because it's unclear to us what really changes when you expand in terms of digital platforms, or what necessarily it means, and necessarily why at the end of the day, it's a very deliberate necessity that you ought to invest in digital access at the end of the day to ensure that there's no reinforcement of educational inequality. So allow me to recontextualize this debate, right? We think what's important is also the understanding of the background on what educational inequality looks like, panel. We think it looks like that because the burden that we think is much more very important from our opening, from opposition, right, which our opening doesn't engage also with, is the idea of showing why deliberately the expansion of digital platforms has created a worse off situation in terms of educational inequality than the educational inequality that existed before that particular expansion. Because we think expansion in this parallel debate looks like the inclusion of digital technological platforms in educational policy and curriculum. It means the idea that government says that, okay, within our educational policy, we want you to include digital learning platforms. We want you to then also the provision of technology at school, innovation hubs, and internet access, right? We think this is parallelly important because the very characterization that they give is very much frail and unfair because they don't establish and support it. And the idea that expansion of digital platforms is just simply the idea that there is now the idea that you can go into your internet and access technology. We think the difference then especially in this parallel debate panel, what you ought to understand, right, is the idea that the comparative in their word looks like the controlled narrative on educational elitism, right? The idea that education is in a sense that only people who go to rich schools can get access to technological advancement. On our side of the house, you have government allocating computers and publicly allocated innovation hubs where likely children from disadvantaged families can go to do their assignments because they don't have internet access at home after they do school. This is parallelly important because the comparative in their world is likely the comparative, not necessarily in their world, right? But without the expansion itself, is likely a worse situation where only students who likely had the means and the money to do these things were the only ones who had internet access. Now, what did they have to defend or likely defend from that side of the world? It was to show why deliberate action in of itself is a necessity to ensure that we create a better status quo, one that mitigates against the inequality that exists. Not panel. They don't at any point show you how digital access, how in the expansion of digital platforms, the provision of computers in school and providing access to these resources likely worsens the worst comparative of what used to exist, whereby kids didn't even have an option as to where at least they get access to social media, internet access, and their research, and in terms of getting access to information. We think, pardon, will give a bit of compliment to our opening, right? Because at a point in time, they tell you that things like accessibility and affordability are things that exist in that side of the world and the flexibility they're in, but they fail to explain how these points necessarily boil down to make sure that expansion in itself is something that is important to consider in this debate, ensure that it does not risk reinforcement. Now, what do we parallelly think accessibility is something that you still get? We think accessibility is not necessarily something you need to force people to do. When you then ensure that the expansion of these digital platforms is there, you then create the necessary interest and motivation for people to want to get access to these things, and then thereby that access then directly exists in that particular world. We think with that, we're proud to propose.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. We understand that there are highly contentious issues that we are discussing right now. But something we must also discuss is the aspect of dessert. And I like my cream quite whipped. Without further ado, I'll now call upon the government whip to come forward and present their idea.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I would just like to start by saying, without deliberate investments, these digital platforms will continue to replicate privilege for urban areas and urban learners rather than rural learners. These inequalities affect rural learners the most, as 34% of rural learners have internet access according to portals. Technology. We've heard today that that technology helps to integrate disaster preparedness, but this expansion cannot integrate disaster preparedness if there are no devices on which to learn on these issues. So I would just like to say these points are irrelevant and off topic to the main issue. The opposition also brought up the issue of radio learning. Radio learning was a concept that was used during COVID, but this concept has become obsolete in this day and age, and it stopped after COVID. So I would just like to say irrelevant.
Point.
Finance is an important point in bridging the digital divide. And UNICEF even recognizes this by their GIGA initiative. Their model includes mapping, financing, connecting. Those are their three main points in their model. And financing is an essential part of bridging this divide. I would just like to say, panel, how can we expand when there is no technology and infrastructure available to use these devices with? In urban areas, this seems possible. As all of us maybe, we can be from urban areas as we are in universities. But in rural areas, this is a pipe dream. The two-tier system continues to exist. As elite schools have hybrid learning, textbooks, online exams, urban areas, they don't even have infrastructure, let alone digital infrastructure. The opposition told us that we need less teachers because we can use digital technology to learn. But teachers are the ones who teach students on how to use these devices. Without teachers, who will teach these students how to use these devices? Who will teach these students digital literacy? Teachers lack digital literacy in rural areas. And it's even worse if the students are supposed to learn on these digital skills without teachers. We've heard that the government gave styling kits and laptops to digital areas, and that the digital device is not a problem. Yet, we're still here today with 34% of rural learners having internet access. And there are so many hidden costs which exclude poor people. With expansion, there needs to be smartphones, bundles, digital literacy. These are all costs, and these need infrastructure in order to advance. And there are also risks of gender and disability-based marginalization. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for your contribution. At the end of the day, we need to start thinking from a ground perspective. AI should not stand for artificial intelligence, but rather African intelligence. Why are we having ChatGPT and Meta all being defined and designed by American institutions, when in all honesty and truth, we can create those entire standpoints on our own? And as we now begin to wrap up this debate with the opposition whip, I will now call them forward to the stand to conclude this enthralling debate.
Panel, as we wrap up this debate, or what this whole debate has been about at the end of the day, we are here to show you why the side of our house should win at the end of the day, and first of all, I'll engage. Opening Government has came here and given us the point of e-learning apps and defined this motion and said that there are e-learning labs, there are Zoom classes and everything at the end of the day. But we tell you that at the end of the day, panel, as we wrap this debate up, we tell you, as my partner has explained about internet and how at the end of the day, we're getting even students in the rural areas and also in the urban areas to gain access to these digital platforms. We tell you, panel, at the end of the day, that education is no longer limited to 4 walls anymore. They come and tell us that in urban areas, there is no internet access, but we tell you that internet access is now available everywhere because we have things like Starlink. When they come, the major clashes in this debate are the accessibility of technology and electricity. We tell you that we now live in a world that has solar panel systems where we are able to cater for that electricity problem that has been there in the rural areas and steamed. And also accessibility to the technology is now there as proven from my partner. And as I support my partner's case, he explains to you what this expansion at the end of the day looks like. It looks like inclusion of digital technology platforms in education policies and curriculum, where there's provision of technology at schools and innovation in internet. We try and prove to you, partner, at the end of the day, what we're proving to you is that we are living in a world that is actually moving forward in terms of digital. So we cannot leave the people in the rural areas behind and say, no, we have excuses of electricity, we have excuses of internet. We tell you that, panel, the innovation hubs that my partner has actually clearly explained and even told you that there's actually internet access in those innovation hubs that are built by the government in rural areas. He has clearly deemed and explained to you that this is used by the government because the government is not a blind government. The government is a government that sees at the end of the day, not take it, that sees at the end of the day that we need to ensure that these people that live in those other areas are well equipped. He comes and explains to you that at the end of the day, they are allocating computers, which means they're actually basing it in their budget to actually think that there are other people who are not able to afford these things. The closing government comes and tries and shines and says, no, the cheapest phone is $150 US. And we tell you that is a lie at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, panel, we tell you that still these things are accessible. We've got companies like ITEL that produces phones that are as cheap as $50. So, panel, at the end of the day, what do we respond? We tell you that government case is not well sustained because they do not characterize what the expansion looks like. And we have already characterized what the expansion looks like at the end of the day. The motion at the end of the day, they do not well enough it. Why do we think our side of the house should win and is better than them at the end of the day? Because now, number one, we prove to you how at the end of the day, this risk of education inequality is reduced. The education inequality, we're making a comparison between the urban areas and the rural areas. Wait a moment. Between the urban rural areas and the rural areas. And we're telling you that we have a government that thinks for those people who are in the rural areas, who have come and actually brought innovative hubs and that have actually made them to gain interest. We tell you, at the end of the day, and bring an example that if someone brings something that you do not like to you and tell you how interesting it is at the end of the day, you will actually be zealed and thrilled to know what that thing does. So we tell you that people in the rural areas panel are going to gain a lot of interest for them to actually learn how this digital education at the end of the day does. And they're also actually going to be updated and not left out in the community, because we want an economy that is equal at the end of the day, and where everyone has actually get an access and a right to have everything that they need, where no one has an excuse that they didn't have digital access, that no one has an excuse and anyone to blame why they are not successful in their lives at the end of the day. So our side of our house should win panel at the end of the day, because we've shown you that we've already proved to you how we reduce this risk of inequality by making sure that these digital devices are available to all. With this, we've never been so proud to oppose.
Julius Caesar once said, Veni, vidi, vici. I came, I saw, and I conquered. The question is, in today's context, they've come, we've seen, but have they conquered? Tupac also said, only God can judge me. But that's not the case with these individuals, because we have a panel of the necessary adjudicators preparing the necessary deliberations. We'll see you right after the break. Wow, quite the debate, wasn't it? Those at podium number 4, how are you feeling? You just closed off the debate in quite an interesting way. How are you feeling about the results that will be coming soon?
It's unpredictable, but we're feeling good.
Very true. We like that. We love that. How about you on podium 3? You truly gave your all. So you laid everything out on the battlefield. It's elimination season. You sure you're going to make it to the next round?
Yes.
Who would you say is your biggest threat and why?
The opening government.
Really? Opening government? How do you feel about that?
Threatened, to say the least, but acknowledge the competition. So.
Ah, we see, we see. So you're quite the threat in the game. Do you think you're going to proceed to the next round?
I hope so.
Is there any particular reason why you started debating? Or this is just a passion?
A bit of both. Yes, it was a passion, but more it was because of the fact that naturally someone just looked at me and went, you would look good when you're arguing. So I had to give it a shot, and here we are.
Lovely, lovely. Well, that's all the chit-chat time that we have for today. It's time to get into the Bronx and the cruise of the matter today. Well, the results have been calculated. The scores sheets have been completed. And it's now time to hear the final results from our respectable adjudicators. I will now allot this time to the Chief Adjudicator to provide us with the results that we've all been waiting for. Chief Adjudicator, may you please come forward.
Okay, my name is Liam and I was chair for this round. So generally this, to be honest, was quite a disappointing round. I felt like more could have been done, especially in terms of addressing the motion. However, at the end of the day, a winner has to be named. So in first position was closing opposition, second, opening government, third, closing government, and fourth, opening opposition. So for any feedback, feel free to see the adjudicators after the round. Thank you.
Podium 1, how do you feel?
Feels good. Feels good. Not going to complain. hopefully we'll keep up the progress.
Lovely. Podium 2, any sentiments?
I got to learn one or two things.
In the words of the man from Podium 2, we have to learn quite a few things. And those at Podium 3, what are your sentiments?
I would like to say congratulations to everyone and a special congratulations to NUST. Thank you.
Lovely. And Podium 4, the closing opposition.
Well, all we can say is we came, we saw, and yeah, we debated.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Well, I'm having a brilliant time over here, and I hope that you at home are also having an extraordinary time as well. This has been the 2025 8th edition of the SASI Debate Challenge, Speak and Solve initiative. In partnership with all these brilliant students, we'd like to thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
I look up in the sky, God is my angel. I look up in the sky, God gonna save me. I've got a vision, so I gotta work on it. Nobody bring me down, so I gotta go, gotta go.
I got a dream, when you know you have a dream.
Work, work, work.
I got a dream, when you know you have a dream.
Work, work, work.
Dream kisses, we grinding on.